The 1970s were the wild frontier of motorcycles, a decade where speed, style, and ambition collided. Bikes evolved from humble motorized bicycles into machines capable of breathtaking speed and daring design. But with bold innovation came spectacular failure. Japanese brands like Honda, Yamaha, Suzuki, and Kawasaki led the charge, flooding global markets with powerful two-strokes and ambitious. Some, like Kawasaki's Mach series and Honda's CB line, became icons. Others, like Yamaha's TX750 or Honda's Matic, pushed boundaries but fell short in practice. Europe fought back with Ducati's 860 GT, Moto Guzzi's V7 Sport, and Triumph's Trident, while Harley-Davidson struggled under AMF, producing inconsistent machines that couldn't match Japanese reliability. Motocross exploded in the US, with bikes like Suzuki's TM400 Cyclone dominating on paper but notorious for unpredictable handling. Around the world, production soared and experimentation reshaped the industry. The 70s became a proving ground. Some bikes became legends, others disasters, but all left their mark on motorcycle history. Now let's dive into the top 10 most infamous flops of the decade, the bikes that thrilled, terrified, and sometimes nearly killed their riders. Yamaha SC500. Yamaha's SC500 was meant to be a competitive motocross machine, but it quickly gained a reputation for unpredictability. Its 4.0 two-stroke single-cylinder engine capable of 44 horsepower was temperamental. Riders reported erratic throttle response. One moment the bike sputtered, the next it snapped forward violently, often launching the front wheel into the air unexpectedly. Weighing 243 lbs, the lightweight frame promised agility, but the poor weight distribution made handling a nightmare in corners. Suspension components wore out almost immediately, and the 8-liter fuel tank required constant stops during races, further frustrating competitors. Despite its innovations, the SC500's inconsistent performance relegated it to a cautionary tale in motocross history. What made the SC500 so infamous was not just its flaws, but the gap between expectation and reality. Yamaha had already built a reputation for delivering competitive off-road bikes in smaller classes, and when they introduced a big-bore motocross machine, riders assumed it would dominate. On paper, the SC500 looked like a game changer, lightweight, powerful, and equipped with features that should have made it a serious contender, but the reality was far different. The throttle response was so unpredictable that even skilled riders struggled to maintain control, and the suspension, rather than absorbing impacts, often gave out after just a few hard rides. For racers who depended on durability and consistency, this was unacceptable. The problems went beyond race. Casual riders who bought the SC500 hoping for thrilling off-road experience often found themselves frustrated and injured. Stories circulated of riders being thrown off without warning, their machines lurching forward with explosive bursts of power. These tales spread quickly, cementing the SC500's reputation as a dangerous, unmanageable bike. In motocross history, the SC500 has become almost legendary for all the wrong reasons. It symbolizes the risks of pushing innovation without fully refining the product. While Yamaha would go on to produce far more successful off-road machines in later years, the SC500 remains a reminder that even industry leaders can stumble. Today, collectors may still prize it for its rarity, but among riders, it stands as one of the most notorious motocross failures of the 1970s. 95. Triumph Trident T160. The British hoped the Trident T160 would revitalize the declining motorcycle market. It featured a 700cc air-cooled inline triple engine, electric starter, and dual disc brake, a modern touch for the era. Unfortunately, the introduction of new mufflers caused back pressure, creating an over-fuel condition that undermined performance. Oil leaks and electrical faults were common, with riders frequently reporting clutch cable and rev counter problems. The T160's sleek styling and 3-cylinder configuration impressed on paper, but reliability and performance lagged behind Japanese rivals, leaving the bike with a reputation for being temperamental at best. The T160 was, in many ways, Triumph's last stand against the flood of Japanese. Honda's CB750 had already redefined the standard for power, smoothness, and dependability. By comparison, the Trident looked dated, even with its update. While the triple-cylinder layout gave it a unique sound and character, riders were quick to notice its flaws. Electrical gremlins plagued the ignition system, often leaving owners stranded. Oil leaks, a persistent problem for British bikes, became a running joke among motorcyclists. Many claimed you could find a Triumph in a parking lot simply by following the trail of oil stains. Another drawback was cost. The Trident T160 was priced higher than some of its Japanese competition, yet offered less in terms of outright performance and reliability. Its weight also worked against it. At around 500 pounds wet, the bike felt heavy in corners compared to the nimble Kawasaki Z1 or the dependable Honda CB line. Riders who wanted cutting-edge technology or a worry-free ownership experience increasingly turned away from British brands. Despite these shortcomings, the T160 was not without. Enthusiasts praised its styling, calling it one of the most attractive motorcycles Triumph ever produced. The sound of the triple engine, a deep growl that sat between the smoothness of a four-cylinder and the thump of a twin, won over many fans. Today, collectors view the T160 as a symbol of British resilience during a time of industrial decline. But in its own era, it was a reminder that charm and tradition were no match for the efficiency and reliability of Japanese engineering. Kawasaki H2 Mach 4 Kawasaki's H2 Mach 4 was a 740 CHC 2-stroke triple with a claimed 74 horsepower, a powerhouse capable of 125 millimeters. Yet the bike's frame was nearly identical to the smaller H1 Mach 3, and its flexible chassis struggled to handle the engine's power. The thin front fork combined with a single front disc and rear drum brake made stopping a challenge. Add to that a rearward weight bias, and riders found themselves unintentionally performing wheelies or losing control at high speed. Professional racers often avoided the H2 Mach 4, and despite incremental improvements in 1973 and 1974, it was discontinued in The H2 earned the nickname the Widowmaker, a title that tells you everything about its reputation. Kawasaki's intention was clear: build the fastest production motorcycle in the world, no matter the cost. And in terms of raw speed, they succeeded. The 748cc triple delivered brutal acceleration, capable of outpacing almost anything else on the road in a straight line. But that performance came at a steep price. The chassis flexed dangerously at high speed, creating an unnerving wobble. That made riders feel like they were fighting the bike rather than controlling it. Braking was another nightmare. With so much power and so little refinement in the stopping department, riders had to plan their deceleration well in advance. Add in the rearward weight distribution, and even experienced motorcyclists found themselves performing unintended wheelies when opening the throttle. On public roads, this unpredictability could be deadly. Despite its flaws, the H2 Mach 4 attracted thrill seekers who wanted the fastest, wildest ride available. For some, the danger was part of the allure. Kawasaki marketed it as a no-compromise, and while it succeeded in cementing the company's image as a performance leader, it also pushed many riders to their limits. By 1975, as safety concerned and stricter emission standards mounted, Kawasaki pulled the plug. But the legend of the H2 Mach 4 lives on. Today, collectors prize it for its raw character, while historians remember it as both a marvel of engineering audacity and a warning of what happens when speed outpaces safety. Suzuki TM400. Cyclone Suzuki's TM400 Cyclone was an ambitious motocross bike aimed at replicating the success of factory. Its 398cc 2-stroke engine promised 40 horsepower, but erratic ignition and inconsistent power delivery made it unpredictable. Riders described the throttle like a switch, fully on or off, with bursts of power appearing at random RPMs. The bike's chassis flexed under stress, causing binding and sudden spring back that could throw riders into hazards. By 1975, some improvements were made, But the Cyclone had already secured its place in motocross lore as a dangerous and temperamental machine. When it debuted in 1971, the TM400 was seen as a potential game changer. Suzuki had already proven its dominance in smaller displacement motocross classes, and many assumed the TM400 would bring the same success to the big bore category. On paper, it had all the right ingredients: lightweight construction, competitive horsepower, and Suzuki's racing pedigree. In practice, however, it was a nightmare. The power band was so abrupt that even seasoned professionals struggled to control it. One moment the bike crawled forward, the next it surged violently, sometimes launching riders off the track without warning. The chassis only made matters worse. It lacked the rigidity needed for a big bore motocross machine, flexing unpredictably under heavy loads. Riders reported the suspension binding mid-jump or snapping back with a violent rebound, sending them into crashes that seemed unavoidable. The bike quickly gained a reputation as unrideable, particularly for amateurs who lacked the reflexes to manage its wild behavior. Despite Suzuki's attempts to refine the model with incremental changes in 1973 and 1974, the damage to its reputation was done. Professional racers often avoided it, preferring more predictable machines from Yamaha, Kawasaki, or Honda. The TM400 soon became infamous among motocross fans, who whispered stories of spectacular wipeouts and near-death experiences. Today, the TM400 Cyclone is remembered less as a racing contender and more as a cautionary tale. It represents the risks of pushing technology too quickly without collectors still seek it out, but not for its performance. Instead, it stands as a symbol of motocross's experimental era, when the pursuit of speed sometimes came at the expense of riders. Suzuki RE5. The RE5 was Suzuki's bold experiment with a rotary wanko. While innovative, it was heavy, complex, and costly to maintain. Without advanced apex seals, even minor engine issues required complete replacement of the rotor unit. At over 500 lbs, the bike handled poorly, and its quirky styling polarized the market. Despite its initial promise, the RE5's novelty quickly faded, and production ended just 4 years after its launch. Suzuki introduced the RE5 in 1974, betting that the futuristic rotary engine would set it apart from its Japanese rivals. At a time when innovation was exploding in the motorcycle industry, the Wanko concept looked like the next big leap. Smooth, quiet, and capable of producing impressive power for its displacement, the rotary engine promised a revolution. Suzuki even hired Giorgetto Giugiaro, one of the world's most famous industrial designers, to style the bike. The result was a machine with cylindrical thermos flask gauges and unique body lines that made it stand out immediately. But the problem soon outweighed the promise. The engine's design required precision manufacturing, and Suzuki's engineers struggled to make the apex seals durable under real-world riding conditions. When those seals failed, the engine lost compression, and riders faced costly repairs. Unlike a traditional piston engine, repairs weren't simple. Most failures meant replacing the entire rotor unit. Weight also became a major drawback. At over 550 pounds fully fueled, the RE5 was far heavier than most bikes in its class. Combined with a tall frame and awkward weight distribution, it felt sluggish in corners and unstable at high speeds. The styling too divided opinions. Some saw it as futuristic, while others dismissed it as unnecessarily eccentric. Despite heavy marketing and Suzuki's confidence, the RE5 never gained widespread acceptance. Riders wanted reliability, simplicity, and value, qualities that Honda, Yamaha, and Kawasaki were delivering with their 4-stroke. By 1978, Suzuki quietly ended production. Today, the RE5 is remembered as both a daring experiment and a cautionary tale. Collectors admire its uniqueness, but riders see it as proof that innovation without practicality can doom even the boldest designs. LTA 1000, Italy's LTA 1000, was a heavyweight road bike featuring a 900cc air-cooled triple DOHC engine, 90 horsepower. Its duplex cradle frame on alloy wheels suggested performance, yet at 495 lbs dry, it was heavy and cumbersome. The suspension was harsh, compromising comfort on longer rides. Despite its engineering ambition, real-world handling left much to be desired, and riders often struggled with agility and cornering stability. The LTA 1000, produced by La Vera, was Italy's attempt to compete directly with the growing dominance of Japanese superbikes like the Honda CB750 and Kawasaki Z1. Lavada's engineers aimed for brute force and durability, creating a machine that was undeniably powerful for its time. With its triple-cylinder engine, the bike promised smooth delivery and long-distance touring capability. Yet while it excelled in straight-line speed, its heavy build and stiff ride turned it into a challenge on winding roads. The suspension, setup designed more for stability than comfort, transmitted every bump directly to the rider. On long rides, fatigue set in quickly, which limited its appeal as a touring bike. Cornering was another weak point. At nearly 500 pounds dry, the LTA required muscle to maneuver, and its sluggish steering made it feel more like a sport touring compromise than a true performance machine. Compounding the issue was cost. The LTA 1000 was significantly more expensive than its Japanese rivals, yet it didn't offer the same level of refinement, reliability, or user-friendliness. Electrical faults and vibration at higher speed were recurring complaints, while the overall build quality, though robust, required constant upkeep. Still, the LTA 1000 wasn't without admirers. Its bold Italian styling, booming exhaust note, and reputation for toughness gave it a cult following. Some riders appreciated its raw character, describing it as a machine that demanded respect rather than offering easy thrills. In hindsight, the LTA 1000 stands as an ambitious, flawed contender. It showcased Italian engineering passion, but struggled against the lighter, more reliable, and more affordable Japanese machines flooding global market. Today, collectors value it as a rare example of Italy's determination to fight back during the superbike wars of the 1970s. 74 Ducati 860 GT Ducati's 860 GT deviated from traditional round case styling, embracing angular lines. Powered by an 893cc V-twin with a desmodromic valve system, it delivered 57 to 60 horsepower, respectable but underwhelming compared to competitors. The combination of unconventional styling and maintenance-intensive components caused poor sales. Enthusiasts struggled with brakes, weight distribution, and overall ride quality, making it one of the most polarizing Ducati models of the 1970s. Moto Guzzi V7 Sport. Moto Guzzi introduced the V7 Sport to capture the cafe racer market. Its transversely mounted 748cc V2 engine, dual 30mm carburetors, and 5-speed shaft drive were innovative, producing 70 horsepower. However, complex maintenance, inconsistent quality control, and reliability issues limited its appeal. While the bike offered spirited performance on the road, owners found it demanding to keep in top condition, earning mixed reviews despite its charm. Honda CB750A Honda Matic. In the mid-1970s, Honda was at the height of its reputation for building practical, reliable motorcycles. Their groundbreaking CB754, released in 1969, had already transformed the global motorcycle market with its smooth 4-cylinder engine, disc brakes, and affordability. But as Honda looked ahead, the company wanted to capture a different kind of rider, those who were intimidated by clutch levers, gear shifting, and the mechanical complexity of motorcycles. The result was the 1976 Honda CB750A, better known as the Honda Matic. At its core, the CB750A was a bold experiment. It was powered by a 736cc SOHC 4-cylinder engine, detuned to produce about 47 horsepower. Instead of the familiar manual gearbox, Honda equipped it with a 2-speed automatic transmission operated by a simple torque. Riders only needed to choose between low and drive, twist the throttle, and let the bike do the rest. On paper, it promised simplicity. No clutch, no gear juggling, just effortless riding. But in practice, the concept stumbled. Weighing nearly 580 pounds, the bike was significantly heavier than its manual counterpart. The 2-speed system, while functional, was limiting. Low felt sluggish, and drive often left the engine straining at higher speed. Enthusiasts who expected the smooth acceleration of the original CB7 750 were disappointed finding the Honda-Matic slow and uninspiring. The reduced horsepower only added to the frustration, making the machine feel more like a heavy touring bike than a sporty roadster. Honda, however, didn't intend this bike for thrill-seek. Their target audience was new riders, commuters, or even returning riders who wanted convenience over excitement. Ads highlighted the simplicity: no clutch, no shifting, just ride. Yet the market wasn't ready. Most beginners still preferred smaller, lighter motorcycles, while experienced riders dismissed the Honda-Matic as underpowered and unengaging. In an era when the motorcycle press was buzzing about Kawasaki's H2 Triple or Yamaha's fast two-strokes, the CB750A seemed tame, almost out of step with the times. Despite its lukewarm reception, the Honda-Matic deserves recognition. It foreshadowed the automatic and semi-automatic transmissions that would eventually appear in scooters, adventure bikes, and Honda's own modern DCT-equipped machines. What seemed like a failed experiment in 1976 was actually a glimpse of future. Still, for its own time, the CB750A remains a fascinating reminder that even industry leaders can struggle to balance bold innovation with rider expectation. The 1973 Yamaha TX750 was a bold step forward with its 740 Series parallel twin dry sump, lubrication, 5-speed gearbox, and front disc brake. But overheating, oil consumption, and handling issues quickly tarnished its promise. At over 500 lbs, it felt heavy and unreliable, turning Yamaha's innovation into a cautionary tale. The 1970s were full of such experiments: Japan's two-stroke rocket, Europe's daring designs, and ambitious machines like the Suzuki RE5 or Kawasaki H2 Mach 4. Some dazzled, others disappointed, but all pushed the boundaries of motorcycle engineering. In the end, these failures weren't wasted. Each misstep taught manufacturers hard lessons in reliability, safety, and rider experience, laying the groundwork for the refined sport bikes and touring machines we know today. The decade remains a testament to imagination and risk-taking, where even flawed motorcycles left a lasting mark on history.